Bovine tuberculosis is one of the biggest threats to our cattle industry today, particularly in the West. We spoke to some cattle farmers in Dorset to see how they felt about bovine TB.
TB is having a devastating effect on the farm at the moment, and very, very soul destroying for all the members of staff and for my father and I.
Yes, it can't just go on like it is. There's too many people losing a lot of money.
It is just a waste of time unless it's controlled, properly controlled.
Bovine TB is one of the biggest challenges facing cattle farmers in the UK today. On average, 100 cows are slaughtered each day because of the disease. We visited James, a dairy farmer who has been under TB restrictions for over 2 years. During this time, he has had 22 animals slaughtered, of which only 1 cow was found to actually show visible signs of TB. Although James does get compensated for the animals that he loses, the compensation he gets is no recompense for the loss of his loved cattle. For TB testing to go smoothly, it means a real logistical nightmare, moving all of his animals from their fields to pens to be examined. The farm's vet, Jenny, gave all of James's cows 2 jabs in the necks a few days ago. Today she's come back to feel their necks for lumps to see if any of the cattle have reacted. They may well have a lump, but it's the bottom one that's the telltale sign of a reaction to TB, and that's what James doesn't want to find.
We measured the 2 bits that we've clipped. My calipers.
As you can see, it's fairly stressful on cattle doing all this, which we have to do every 60 days. If restrictions continue, apart from the fact that we would continue to lose a lot of animals, economically it becomes unviable to continue milking and to continue having beef cattle, and perhaps we would end up just having all arable crops on the farm and no livestock. Many farms around here, in fact, have done that. They've sold their cattle, partly because of TB reasons and partly because of low milk prices. They've just felt there's no future in it. They've sold their animals and now just grow crops.
It only takes 1 animal to react to the TB test, and then the whole herd is closed down, which means you can only sell animals direct to slaughter. You can't sell breeding animals to other farmers, and that is how farmers make a lot of their money from cattle, by selling their animals. So the testing is almost close to finishing. There's just 1 more herd of calves to do, and James would have passed. But this one's reacted, which means that this cow, also in calf, has to be compulsory slaughtered, and James's herd will have to remain shut down. James won't be able to sell or even move any of his pedigree animals, and he'll have to do a test again every 60 days until he goes clear. Farmers have to clear 2 tests 60 days apart until they may sell their animals again. James is devastated. The disease costs taxpayers around £100 million a year. It only takes 1 animal to fail the whole herd. So why is the disease getting worse? We asked Jenny what she thought about the current measures to control the disease.
I think that TB testing it's a very reliable method. It probably is the best method, but I think well, obviously for detecting cattle that have TB, but I think it should be used along with other control measures.
In recent years, badgers have come under harsher scrutiny for the spread of the disease. As a protected species and a species with no natural predators, the badger population within the UK has rapidly expanded, and the government recently confirmed the animals as a significant reservoir for the disease. However, there are currently no measures to control the disease within the badger population.
So we've got some approved buildings these animals are in, and one of the stipulations that the government want is that the yard or the building should be badger proof. In other words, so badgers can't get in to spread disease to the cattle. which to me just proves the point that the badgers are the ones spreading the disease, and we're getting to the ridiculous stage now where we've got to fence our cattle in to keep the badgers out, and that just shows how bad the situation has got.
We visited some nearby farmers to see what they felt about potential measures to control the badger population in hope of preventing this terrible disease.
Yeah, they've got to start looking in the wildlife seriously rather than just controlling the dairy herds.
They have to be some sort of control, either by injecting or by a cull or whatever.
We spoke to local badger groups asking them what they thought about potential culling methods to control the spread of the disease within the UK. The disease may be transmitted to humans, however the risk is very low as there are so many restrictions imposed. Cattle herds in the UK have to be regularly tested. Whilst we were on his farm, James told us a devastating story. Last summer, one of his favourite in-calf heifers bred on the farm tested as a TB reactor. She was so heavily pregnant, James had to call a slaughterman to come on his farm and shoot her there and then. Her heavy carcass was afterwards dragged into a lorry that later drove off.
To me, that was 2 years hard work breeding that heifer to come into the herd, to give milk, to produce a calf, and that was just a complete, absolute waste of time and money on the animal. And in this situations, we just cannot carry on like this.